Hi, I'm Brian Lord, Senior Vice President of Premier Speakers Bureau. I'm happy to welcome Jim Craig, subject of the movie by Disney, Miracle. Of course, the goalie for the Miracle on Ice hockey team, and author of Gold Medal Strategies, Business Lessons from America's Miracle Team. Jim, thanks for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure, Brian.
Now, ESPN called the Miracle on Ice the biggest upset in sports history. And so whether it's business or sports, what are the two or three biggest secrets a group would need to have when they're trying to knock off Goliath, when they're trying to create that upset?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you need somebody with a vision, and we were lucky enough that we had Herb Brooks with a vision. But then you have to have a shared dream, and that's a journey. That's a hard thing. And I think one of the best things that I do is really explain what that is to get to a shared dream. And the book has 9 strategies, but I think having a shared dream is really important, meticulously recruiting the right people and having them managed through ego and conflict, because a lot of companies don't like ego or conflict, and yet those are the driving forces. As long as you can manage them and they believe in your vision, then you have growth. And there's a lot of building of culture that starts to have a shared dream.
Mm-hmm. Now, that builds on one of the next questions I wanted to talk to you about. You know, a lot of companies want to have teamwork, and they're bringing together maybe 2 different silos or merging 2 different divisions, or even where you have, mergers of 2 different companies that have been adversaries, but now they need to come together and they've got to work together towards a common goal. What are the lessons that you learned from your time on the team? And you had pretty much that exact situation.
Yeah, what happens is when you merge 2 teams together, you have a lot of talent. And what happens is everybody can't do what they used to do. In our case, with the Olympic team, everybody was captains and All-Americans and used to winning individually. So I think what you have to do is you have to understand that shared dream and winning collectively is a big difference. And so you have to teach them how to think differently, play differently, and train differently. And then natural talent and winners. So I talk about meticulous recruiting, the right people. And, in the movie, Brooks always talks about, I'm not looking for the best people, I'm looking for the right people. Mm-hmm. And essentially, that's what he's talking about, is really recruiting people that know what it takes to win. And I always say, people who win, they push a little harder every single day. They just do a little bit more work. And the ones who don't wish they did years later.
Yeah. Now, actually, this is out of curiosity, but in the movie, people watch the movie, you were the guy who didn't take the test. Was that accurate?
Yeah, but it was a little bit more complicated. I didn't take the test because I had made a promise to my mother that I would not turn professional, because we knew my mother was dying of cancer. And I thought if I didn't take the test that Herb Brooks would send me home. Mm-hmm. But one of the big things that I talk about in becoming great teams and having great vision is you have to care about your people. Mm-hmm. And Herb Brooks really cared about me. And, pulling greatness out of people is a really incredible trait that all great leaders have. And so that's parts of the things I really like to talk about. Use that experience where I had to learn that people care about you, and that winning collectively is a really important thing.
One of the things event planners look for, a lot of times the event planner themselves or the executives, they say there's a particular business message they want to get across, and they want to get a business speaker. But then on the other hand, the attendees, they want to meet, some sports celebrity or somebody with a really cool story that way. And you're one of the few people that can actually accomplish both for them. So we know about the Miracle on Ice and the movie and everything else. What's your business background?
Well, I think what's really interesting is people don't really embrace change very well. And when you're the best at something in the world at one point in time, which myself and my teammates were, to get an injury and then have to start another career, it's really kind of a hard thing to do. Mm-hmm. And I did. And I was fortunate enough to have great mentors. Mm-hmm. And I learned the business career. So when these meeting planners are planning, they're talking to someone when they're dealing with me who's spent 20 years in sales at those meetings. So I understand those meetings better than anything else. And I know that a lot of times the people who are hired to please the chairman or the CEO. And that's not really the one that matches up really well with the sales team or what maybe the message is. And so I utilize all the talents that I've learned and all the strengths from my athletic career and the 20 years of sales experience to make sure that when people hire me, that I understand what the objective is and to make sure it's a good fit for me as well. And so it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that.
And what are some of the tools and takeaways that attendees will have after hearing you speak?
Well, I think what's really important for anybody that does this is that you really match up the theme of the meeting. And so it has some sustainability. And you get the front of the meeting so people are excited to come. And then you get them so they really want to listen. And then you have the sustainability afterwards. And so what I do is I customize each one of these things. We spend more than an hour on a conference call with the decision makers and the business leaders to really work collectively to understand their business enough to know that I've sat in that chair and that I'm not just saying these buzzwords that everybody wants to say. What I really do is I've sat there. You know, I've taken a sales territory from 300,000 to 50 million, and I know what their challenges are. So when I'm preparing, I'm able to challenge as a salesperson as well as a business leader and an owner of a company to make sure that I guess, Brian, a lot of times they spend so much money to get these folks in that they try to cram everything in.
Yeah.
So sometimes I can be the voice of reason to make sure that what they're doing is really going to resonate and that they're going to want to listen and tie it in so that they connect the dots themselves and through story that's going to make them feel really good about listening, and at the end, really go back and self-evaluate.
And one of the things we strive for here at Premier is to make the event planner look good and make their life easier. What are some of the ways that you accomplish that?
I think what we have done is, in another business of mine, we sell quite a bit of sales, gifting, everything else. So we've dealt with meeting planners forever. We know how much time it takes. They have to find the site. You know how nervous they are with flying. So what we will do is we look at the weather. We make sure if it needs to come in the day earlier, we come in a day earlier. We really make sure that they're comfortable, that when I show up, that I'm going to be dressed appropriately. We text them when they get in. We follow up with them, and we really make sure that they don't have to worry about us. They've got a million other things to worry about. The last thing they need to do is worry about me, whether I'm going to show up, do I know where to go. So we really spend the time to make sure that they're at ease and they know that there's one less thing to worry about.
And I actually have one more question for you here. I know one of the, and as soon as I have it, I just had it here, but you're also in this book, Fathers and Daughters in Sports. And so, you know, your daughter is quite an accomplished hockey player, and I try to find this out from your wife and your staff there. Who is more competitive, you or your daughter?
Well, what happens is passion, and people don't even know what passion is. And sometimes as fathers and business people, we drive the passion out of the people before we have it. So what I've done all my life is try to let her establish her own visions and dreams. So I think Taylor's quite competitive. I think we're very similar. You know, I always tell people with change, right? Change is really difficult. Everybody wants to change, but it reminds me of a saying that I heard it says, you know, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And, you know, it's kind of like, that's how difficult change really is, because in theory, everybody wants to do that. I think what's really great about our daughter, her competitiveness, is she has permission to fail. And it's the only way you can really learn. And that's part of the big part of when I talk is, you know, I learned more from my failures than I did from my successes. And I think it's really fun to watch your daughter or your son or anybody learn how to figure it out for themselves. So I think she's a lot better at figuring out life and what she wants than I ever was at her age.
Great. Well, Jimmy, thanks for doing this. And for those event planners who are watching this, if you look right under the screen here, you'll be able to see a link where you can watch Jimmy's sample videos. You can read speech topics, his bio, a lot of other information. And also make sure to subscribe to be able to watch this and see whenever new interviews come out. So, Jimmy, thanks again
Right.
for doing this. And
I really appreciate it. You guys are really professional, and I hope the meeting planners out there have a great year.
all right, thanks again, Jimmy.